Over the last few years, I've spent hundreds of nights out at sea on cruise ships as a passenger. That's allowed me to see so many amazing parts of the world, but it's also allowed me to explore so many amazing cruise ships. There are some facilities out on those cruise ships that totally blow my mind. I just simply cannot believe that they've been able to create some of these things on board ships. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. In this video, I am going to show you 12 completely unbelievable facilities that I've found out there on cruise ships, and I really hope that you enjoy what you see. I think some of them might really surprise you. If you've just found my channel today for the first time, then welcome. I'm Fraser and I use my YouTube channel to hopefully share my experiences with you to help you have the best cruise ever. If you like the sound of that, then please do click subscribe and come along with me. Anyway, number 12, let's get started by talking about Carnival Cruise Line. Come and join me on board Carnival Horizon and let me show you the IMAX theatre. That's right, let me take you onto a cruise ship and let me show you the IMAX theatre. When you arrive at the theatre, you'll be greeted by a box office. There, you can buy snacks, you can buy your ticket, and you can relax before you head in to the main theatre. Once inside, you'll find a cinema that's got over 150 seats in there. It is absolutely huge, and the experience is exactly what I would expect from an IMAX theatre on land. I can't believe how premium this feels for being on a cruise ship and how close they've got it to the on-land experience. I've been to so many cinemas on cruise ships where you think, okay, it's quite good considering it's on a cruise ship, but this one was absolutely excellent regardless of the fact it's on a cruise ship. You don't get this included with your cruise fare when you cruise with Carnival, so you do have to pay a little bit extra. You can expect to pay about $6 or $7 if you're looking to see a short documentary, or if you'd like to come in here to see a full feature-length movie, then you should be expecting to pay somewhere in the region of about $18 to $20. I am such a huge fan of this. It was absolutely excellent. Now, you don't have this facility available on all Carnival cruise ships. I cruised on board Carnival Horizon, and the other ship is a ship in the same class, and that's Carnival Vista. But if you're cruising on either of these two ships, promise me you'll go in there and watch a movie. Number 11. Let's now totally switch cruise line, head over to Royal Caribbean, and let me take you on board Symphony of the Seas to show you Studio B. Now, you might go to Studio B for a show and think, okay, it's a pretty cool venue, but maybe nothing overly special. What's he talking about? Well, underneath the stage of the show that you've just seen at Studio B is an ice rink. That's right, on the cruise ship, there's an ice rink. That ice rink is then used to put on some fantastic ice shows throughout your cruise. The performers and the acrobats and whatever else they have working in that venue are so talented, and how they do what they do on a moving ship, I don't think I'll ever be able to understand. During sea days, passengers can then take advantage of the ice rink being opened for open skating. That means that as a regular passenger, you can change out of your poolside attire that you've been wearing on the top deck, head down to Studio B, put some ice skates on, and try your luck out on the ice. I can tell you now, I did it, and it was probably as close to a disaster as you could imagine. So yes, number 11, Studio B, on board Symphony of the Seas. Number 10, the Sports Pavilion on board Cunard's Queen Elizabeth. You can tell that in this video already, we are really switching up the types of ships that we're talking about. We started on Carnival, we then went to Royal Caribbean, and now we're at the other end of the spectrum, on board Cunard. I first discovered this venue on my first ever Cunard cruise on Queen Elizabeth, and to be honest, I couldn't really believe it. Up in this part of the ship, you'll find some sports that you very rarely find on other cruise ships, and everything here is totally free and included for you to use throughout the cruise. There's a lawn bowls lawn, there's a croquet pitch, there's golf nets, a lawn tennis court. Now, during the heat of the day, it is pretty hot up here, so you do have to bear that in mind. but Cunard have installed these huge sunshades all over this section of the ship, so they do really help to keep you cool. As a solo traveller, I loved this part of the ship because if I walked up there any time of day on my own, there was always someone that was willing to give me a good game at bowls, croquet, or tennis. There was always somebody there. So yes, number 10, the Sports Pavilion on Queen Elizabeth. Number 9, back to Carnival, and let me show you Sport Square. Now, I've seen lots of cool things on the top decks of cruise ships that really help you pass the time during the days where the ship's at sea all day, but I genuinely think Carnival have next levelled on some of their ships by installing what they call Sport Square. Up here, you'll find part of the ship totally dedicated to so many activities. Think things like mini golf, table tennis, life-sized chessboards, basketball, a jogging track, outdoor gym equipment. There is so much out here. If you don't have good weather, then there's also a little indoor section as well. So regardless of whether it's hot or cold or wet or dry, you should be absolutely fine. Now, I did look at this part of the ship initially, and I thought, wow, when it's a day at sea, there are thousands of people on this cruise ship. I think it'll probably be pretty busy up here. Now, in my experience, from onboard both Carnival Horizon and also Carnival Panorama, it really wasn't an issue, and the crowds did spread out up here really nicely due to the fact that there are so many things for people to choose from. Generally speaking, if I came up here and I wanted to pass some time, I would have no issues getting involved. So yes, make sure that if you are heading onto a Carnival cruise ship, get outside and check out Sport Square. Number 8, we're heading back over onto a Cunard ship, but one that's very different to Queen Elizabeth. Join me on board Queen Mary 2 and let me show you Illuminations. Illuminations is the onboard planetarium on Queen Mary 2, and this venue is also used as a luxury cinema and also a classical music venue. When you look up, you'll see that there is a huge planetarium dome built into the roof in here, and that allows passengers the opportunity to take some time to sit back, relax, and learn a bit more about the sky that they're currently sailing under. Looking around the room, you'll see that there's 2 different colours of seating in here. Some of it looks like an amber gold colour, and some of it is red. If you're looking to come in here to see the planetarium show, then you'll want to sit in a red seat. Generally speaking, they're in the middle of the room, underneath the dome, but if you're coming in for any other show, then you can make yourself at home on any of the other chairs. This venue is something that I don't think I've ever seen at sea before. I love the fact that it's on a ship like Queen Mary 2, and I would love to get on board to experience it again. So yes, Illuminations, the planetarium on Queen Mary 2, you've made the list. Number 7, back over to Royal Caribbean, back on to Symphony of the Seas, and let me show you Central Park. Central Park onboard Symphony of the Seas is one of 7 very distinct neighbourhoods on board. There's over 20,000 plants out here. It is absolutely amazing. These plants are all tended to by the onboard horticulturalists, and you will find at various points during your cruise, if you come out here to take a walk, you'll probably find some of the onboard gardening team tending to and helping the plants to grow. It really is amazing to speak to these people when they're out working. It's such a different role to anything I've ever seen on a cruise ship before. Now, the Central Park area isn't just a park. It's not just somewhere you can come and look at plants. It's also somewhere that's packed full of venues. There's a number of speciality dining options out here. There's also a cafe. There's also some speciality shops. There are so many different things that you can do in an environment that's pretty relaxed and pretty chilled out. There's also a number of cabins on board this cruise ship that look directly into Central Park. So if you are looking at going on a cruise, but you're maybe a little bit nervous about looking out at the water all the time, this gives you the ability to be looking onto what feels like a park on land. It's something that, again, I've never seen anything like Central Park on a cruise ship before. This was my first ever actually, Royal Caribbean cruise, and I was so impressed. One thing that I was particularly attracted to with Central Park was that Symphony of the Seas is absolutely enormous. She carries thousands and thousands and thousands of passengers, and Central Park was a really lovely part of the ship for escaping the crowds. You'd come down here and there would maybe be some live jazz music over by the bandstand, and yes, okay, you can hear some noise coming down from the top decks up above, but generally speaking, it was a really calm, really relaxed environment. So Central Park, you are comfortably within my top 10 for this list. Number 6, we are changing the vibe again, and let me show you the spa on board any of the Virgin Voyages cruise ships. Virgin Voyages operate a number of cruise ships, and all of them are more or less identical. They're certainly identical from a build point of view, and they've got very small discrete differences once you're actually on board the ship. One thing that remains the same is the spa across the fleet, and I genuinely think it's one of the most premium feeling thermal suite areas that I've ever seen on a cruise ship. One thing that I really like is that the spa is open for a really long time period on a Virgin cruise ship, so you can come in here during the peak part of the day and you can be looking out over the open ocean on a day at sea, or looking out over the port if the ship's docked, or you can come in here even after dinner and you can relax in the thermal suite and it would be lovely and dark, and in there you'll get a totally different ambience if you go in at night compared to going in during the day. So the thermal suite on board Virgin Voyages, bliss. Before we move on to cover my top 5 unbelievable things that I've found on cruise ships, let me tell you a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, the Cruise Maps. The Cruise Maps are a company offering bespoke, satellite precision customised cruise maps. What does this mean? Well, imagine coming home from your cruise and then receiving a beautiful map of the cruise you've just taken, which you could then either display in a frame, or you could keep a digital copy. Pretty cool, right? I've got one on the wall behind me when I'm working from a cruise I took a few months ago, and I love looking at it and remembering such a great trip. The thing that makes these maps different to pretty much anything else out there is that they map the exact route your ship took while you were on board. For example, my trip on Queen Mary 2 would show the exact point at which the ship rerouted to Halifax and then proceeded on afterwards, rather than some generic print showing New York to Southampton. If you'd like to order anything from the Cruise Maps, you can do so via their website, and if you use my exclusive discount code FraserAtSea, all one word, then you'll receive a 10% discount on your order. Shipping is totally included globally, and you can use this discount code as many times as you like on both physical and digital products. One final point, don't worry if you've previously taken a cruise that you'd like to map, because the data from the Cruise Maps goes all the way back to early 2015 at the point of recording this video. So if you've been on a cruise since the start of 2015, that would apply to you. So remember, thecruisemaps.com, and the code you need is FraserAtSea, and that will secure you 10% off your order. Number 5. Let me show you SkyRides. You'll find this on board 3 Carnival cruise ships. That's Carnival Horizon, Carnival Panorama, and Carnival Vista. I could not believe what I was seeing when I came across SkyRide for the first time. This one is so impressive, and it's totally included in your cruise fare, so you don't have to pay a penny or a cent over and above what you've already paid to be on the ship. Imagine going for a cycle around the top deck of a cruise ship. Actually, better yet, imagine going for a cycle above the top deck of a cruise ship. SkyRide is a 2-lane bike ride that takes you around the ship's top deck and also at points puts you out over the side of the ship. It's amazing to get a totally different perspective of the ship that you're sailing on, but it's maybe not one if you've got a slight fear of heights, because at times you are probably about 15 or 16 floors above the open ocean and you look down and all that's there is water. So SkyRide from Carnival is well within my top 5, but maybe think twice if you're scared of heights. Number 4, it's the ropes course on board Norwegian Escape. You might be thinking, I've seen so many ropes courses on cruise ships. What makes the one on Norwegian Escape any more impressive? Well, let me show you. Norwegian have designed a 3-storey ropes course, crammed full of so many different challenges. There's even a section of the course where you can walk the plank and go way out across the side of the ship, and similar to SkyRides, you're looking down at the ocean because the plank goes far enough out that you're no longer on the ship. Now don't worry, if that's just made your heart flutter and you've got a little bit nervous at the thought of that, you are totally safe because you are fully strapped in above, so there's zero risk there. However, that still made my legs wobble as I walked out over the side of the ship. I'm not sure I would do it again, but I'm glad I've done it once. So yes, the ropes course on Norwegian Escape, amazing. Number 3, the Aqua Theatre onboard Symphony of the Seas. You'll find the Aqua Theatre onboard multiple Royal Caribbean cruise ships, and the concept on every ship remains pretty much the same, even if there are some small design changes between them. Out here, you will find the theatre positioned right at the back of the ship on most of them, and all of the performers are in and out of this pretty large, pretty deep pool, while all the audience sit around in a semicircle shape facing the back of the ship. At various points throughout the performance, people will then be able to high dive from platforms on both sides of the pool into the water. That's right, they can high dive while on a moving cruise ship. To confirm, all of the people who are doing that diving are very highly skilled and very well trained performers. It's not people like me who get plucked out the audience and get sent up to a platform. Absolutely not. One bit of advice that I would give you, if you are going on a cruise with an Aqua Theatre, is try and go and see the show as early in your cruise as you possibly can, because as I'm sure you can imagine, it's very weather dependent. If you are on a cruise that has perfect weather at the start of the week, then yeah, you'll find that those shows will absolutely go ahead as planned. However, if the weather changes and you get rough seas or you get a high swell, it's often just not safe to operate those performances due to the level of risk involved with some of the stunts. So that meant that on my cruise on Symphony, quite a lot of people didn't actually get to see the show because they left it until the second half of the week when the weather turned. So if you are cruising on board a Royal Caribbean ship with an Aqua Theatre, get in there early, but take it from me, it's awesome. Number 2, we're back on Queen Mary 2, and this one is amazing and unbelievable for a very different reason. Let me show you the kennels on board this ocean liner. Did you know that it is actually possible for you to take a transatlantic crossing or a cruise on Queen Mary 2 with your pet? That's right, you can take your cat or your dog and you can book him or her into one of 24 kennels. While on board, they will then be treated to a life of luxury with chef-prepared meals. There's then lots of room for them to run around and play. There's some outdoor space that the owners can take their dogs out to. There's also a dedicated owner's pet lounge. So if you'd like to go up there and spend some time with your pet, you can do that in the comfort of your own private lounge. One thing that I really loved about cruising on board Queen Mary 2 was going upstairs to see if I could see any dogs, and it was so lovely because I'm a massive dog person, so it was really lovely heading across the Atlantic, being able to say hello to one of my numerous four-legged friends that I met that week. One thing that I didn't know was that the kennels can sometimes be booked for months or years in advance. During my crossing of the Atlantic, I met numerous people who were using the Queen Mary 2 as a way of transporting their pet from one country to another as a result of moving house. They knew that their dog either wouldn't cope or they felt it would be really cruel to ship their dog in a crate on an airplane for 9, 10, 11 or 12 hours or maybe even longer. So they decided rather than do that and deal with quarantine and whatever else, they could just bring the dog onto the Queen Mary 2 and bring it across that way because they had time on their side, so they could do a 7-night cruise with their dog. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty good to me. Let's look at number 1. Let me show you the Blaster, onboard navigator of the seas. I booked a short cruise on Navigator of the Seas from Royal Caribbean, and I wasn't really too sure what to expect. I did think the ship might be quite dated, it might be quite old, and the facilities on there I might not have loved after cruising on something as impressive as Symphony of the Seas. Well, when I arrived and looked up at the side of the ship, I could see what looked like a pretty intricate water park design that looked like there was quite a number of slides up there. What I didn't expect was that there would be an actual Aqua coaster called the Blaster up on the top deck. This water slide puts people in 2-person inflatables, and as you go through the slide, you hit 5 different water jet blasters. They then serve to speed up the inflatable that you're sitting in. They then help you to navigate hills, drops, corners. It is awesome. And would you believe that this slide holds the record for the longest stretch of slide ever suspended over water? This one, you've got to add it to your bucket list. Try and get on Navigator of the Seas, and try and get on Aqua Blaster. It is, absolutely brilliant. Now that's it. That's 12 amazing, unbelievable things that I've found out there on cruise ships. I would love to know what you've thought of these, because I can guarantee, although I think those 12 things are amazing, there will be so many more that I either haven't come across yet, or that you think are even better. Let me know down in the comments, what have you found on cruise ships that has completely blown your mind? There must be so many more things out there. If you've enjoyed this video today, then please do support my channel by clicking the thumbs up button, and also click subscribe to come with me on so many more. Over on my channel, I have got a ton of videos, all cruise related, that will be able to open your eyes to so many different parts of the industry that I absolutely love. So why not head over there now and check out another video. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.